Okay, so that's the right time to visit this question of conductivity of the lower mantle, because for 1 year we have 3 satellites monitoring the magnetic field of the Earth, and they have been devised in such a way that we will be able to subtract the external field, and because of that to describe the rapid variation of the internal field. These 3 satellites will flow for 10 years. It is also interesting, as we have learned this afternoon, because there are a lot of questions about reactions at the core mantle boundary, and we know now that iron oxide is metallic, so we can hope to detect this iron oxide at the bottom of the mantle, and it will tell us about the reactions taking place there today. What do we know about these variations? As I have just told, today we are very limited on the high frequency side of the magnetic field variations, because we are completely drawn by the external field. So it means that it's difficult to say something about variation of the flow with periods less than, let's say, 2 years today. We hope to do better in the near future. In addition, we have detected a 6-year variation in the length of the day. We can predict these variations from core flow models. So we have a way to compare geodetic signal that will give us a clock with a magnetic field signal that comes from the core. And if there is a delay between these 2 clocks, it is tempting to associate it with conduction in the mantle. Theoretically, the mantle filter can be quite complex, because conductivity at the bottom of the mantle is laterally varying. And so all the harmonics are coupled, the poloidal and toroidal fields are coupled also. That's one motivation for the study I am doing here, is to try to find simplifying models that help to study these complicated models of conductivity. But I begin simple. As everybody else has done so far, I will revisit 1D profile of conductivity, and then we can separate poloidal and toroidal field, and we can study harmonic one by one. And the transfer functions will couple the magnetic field coefficients at the core surface to the magnetic field coefficient at the Earth surface. I have written at the bottom of the slide the conduction equations that the poloidal field obey. Now, what is natural first is we are interested by attenuations. High frequency field will be attenuated the most, so it is natural to make a high frequency approximation. Here the small parameter is the inverse of the square root of the frequency. And then we have a sequence of approximations, and what we can check is that we need the first 3 terms in the sequence to describe appropriately the mantle filter for poloidal fields with low harmonic degrees. I will illustrate that in the next few slides. It is important to note that the boundary condition, the matching condition with the insulating mantle is important. Otherwise, we make a factor 2 mistake. Now, there is another possible limit. It has been studied a lot by Backus 30 years ago. That's a perturbative approach. Now we look at 0 frequency. The idea is that we study electrical field electrical currents induced in the conducting mantle by the time variation of the magnetic field, and so on. But this is correct only for a very low frequency. Do I have a pointer?
Yes, you do.
Anyway, on the left-hand side, you see the transfer function. You see that this function will vanish for. Okay, thank you. Will vanish for the poloidal decay modes. So the series that describes the transfer function for low frequency converge only inside this radius. Another interesting point has been made by Stadelman and Weidelt 10 years ago. They have been able to relate, to find the relationship between these two times, τ1 and sigma2, that characterize the filter, and the decay rates. And when you study these relationships, you learn that when the decay rates are far apart, as is the case of a thin conducting layer, then the low frequency approximation is very poor. So here I study this example, that's a textbook example. Then the high frequency approximation is perfect, it's correct, it gives the exact solution. Whereas you see that there is a big difference between so that's the impulse response function. We have a Dirac, an impulse at the core surface, and here I plot the magnetic field at the Earth surface. You see that there is a delay, and this delay is 1/3 the low frequency delay. And again, the low frequency approximation doesn't do a good job here. Now I study another model that is geophysically realistic. It decreases from 5 Siemens per meter at the core surface to 2, 1,000 kilometers below the Earth surface. Then, so I have a convention here. In red, the low frequency approximation. In blue, the high frequency approximations. Here, I plot the modulus of the transfer function. You see that if we go to the second order, we do a good job. Another point, maybe that's difficult to read, is that the times here. Yes, the times here are very short, about 3 months or 1 month and a half, compared to the 2 years that I discussed before. That's the same story again about, so we have a trade-off between high frequency approximation and low frequency approximation. The high frequency approximation works very well for low harmonic degrees. It works less well for high harmonic degrees, and there the low frequency approximation works well. So we understand well this trade-off between these two simple approximations. Now, I am willing to discuss a little bit what the need to consider coupling between the core and the mantle. All what I have explained so far is a classical theory. The way we calculate the filter is by assuming that the core is perfectly conducting and solid on top of that. It is obviously not correct, and so the way we have calculated the filter is not correct also. So on the right here, you see some plot. So we have made with Nathanael an experiment. We study torsional waves in a spherical shell. That's a meridian plane. We impose some impulse in the geostrophic velocity at initial time, and we let the time evolve. And we study how the wave is reflected when it arrives at the equator here. So here you have an example of a wave that is well reflected, and another example where the wave is completely absorbed. So we have the illustration I have used here is for an insulating mantle when the reflection is controlled by the magnetic Prandtl number. But this is exactly the same story when we have a conducting mantle, except that now the magnetic Prandtl number plays no role, the magnetic Prandtl number inside the core. What is important is this parameter that depends on the conductivity of the mantle and on the square of the Alfvén wave inside the core. That's a measure of the magnetic field inside the core. And you see that again, depending on the value of this parameter, you can reflect almost completely the wave or absorb it completely at the boundary. It means that we cannot just assume that the wave is here and do the physics of the core, and on top of that, study how the magnetic field in the mantle perturb what happens inside the core. That would be completely erroneous to do that. I have forgotten to mention that to obtain this value, I have just made this, the low frequency approximations that I have described a few slides ago. So it's just to explain the way we calculate this result. I have not written down the equations. It is a little bit subtle here because it happens that we can model very well what happens when the wave arrives at the equator, as if the wave impinges on a vertical wall, and we have a uniform field normal to the vertical wall. And so the calculations consist in coupling the electrical field deep inside the core, where we have a torsional wave propagation, with the electrical field at the boundary with the insulating mantle. And we have to take into account the viscous Hartmann layer. Depending on the value of the parameters, it plays a very important role. So you see that to do a correct job here, we need to know the source of the magnetic field variations. We cannot take the magnetic field at the core surface as a known quantity. We have to first to understand well our problem, and in this case it is simple. The source that we are exploring, that's the torsional wave deep inside the core. And I arrive at my conclusion that you can read. Thank you.
One quick question? Comment? So Dominique, what would be the practical implications of this analysis to the field modeling, for instance, at the surface of the core or deep inside the Earth?
So it means that the question is not only to calculate the magnetic field at the core surface, that it is not always an intermediate step that is very useful. It means for the data assimilations that we plan to do, that the right quantity to use is not the magnetic field at the core surface, but the magnetic field at the Earth surface.